Rym, founder of Offset Go. This is an early stage startup offering carbon management solutions for distributed workspaces, virtual events, and online learning. So Rym, and a massive thank you, especially for you. Please do tell us what time it is where you are, just so you can get everybody's empathy as well. But over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm calling from Montreal in Canada, and it's 6:37 a.m. I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this event and to join a community of like-minded companies, all fighting the same fight for climate change. So a bit of background on myself. I'm a sustainability consultant focused on the urban part. Within the urban context, I've been working in the field of green building for many years now, probably 20 or so. I have a consultancy company called Medina Works, and I've also been involved quite significantly in working with startups in the Middle East and North Africa region, where I'm from. So during the COVID lockdown, I started thinking about what will be the impact of more and more companies transitioning to remote working and spending more and more time working and collaborating via tools like this, like Zoom and others. So, you know, as someone who kind of comes from the urban sustainability world, I started thinking about the physical workplace, which is the home office, but also started learning from people like Tom and others about what does that mean, this digital footprint as well. And I thought we need a solution, a very easy solution for companies who have a team that is completely remote or hybrid mode to actually be able to capture that. So if we move to the next two slides, in a way, you know, the workplace is increasingly distributed, and the next slide is every inch or square inch and bit of climate action will actually count, especially the number is increasing. More and more companies are transitioning, if not to remote, to hybrid mode. And in the knowledge sector, and companies like we're talking about here who are producing digital products and services, this is especially relevant. So if we go to the next slide, please. In order to evaluate a company's carbon footprint, most companies will probably use the greenhouse gas protocol, which includes which would cover three main scopes. The scope number one, which is really linked to the direct emissions of a company, linked to their facilities, their vehicles, etc. And scope two, which is about, you know, what electricity and other fuels they're using, they're purchasing actually for their own use. This scope one and scope two is what most companies who are doing carbon accounting would consider. The reason is also because they consider it more direct, easier to get also in terms of information because it's somewhat under their control. And other companies are increasingly looking at scope three as well, which is the indirect emissions, everything else that involves more stakeholders like employee commute or supply chain or business travel, etc. And there's a push for more and more companies to also cover this part as well, which tends to be hard to capture. Now, if we move to the next slide and we think about a remote company, the middle part kind of disappears if we follow the standards by the letter, right? And it wouldn't be right to ignore, you know, other indirect emissions that are actually being created in the homes of the employees. And that's what I'm trying to show in the third slide. In the next slide, basically our office is becoming this network of home offices. They're all connected to electricity and they're all consuming potentially other fuels like natural gas for heating, etc. They produce waste as well, etc. So if we take the same principle that we address offices in when a company has its own space, its own workplace, we could look at it in the same way, but in the distributed network of home offices. And this is exactly, next slide, what we're trying to do at OffSetGo. We're trying to help digital-first organizations track, reduce, and offset greenhouse gas emissions in the distributed workplace. And our current approach, which we're still testing because we're still an early stage company, is what I'm trying to show in the next slide. First of all, we want companies to actually start with a commitment. Think of it like when you're taking public transport, you actually top up your Oyster card before you even use public transport. Why not have a system in place that a company could actually pledge a certain tonnage of carbon offsets per remote desk or per employee or per full-time equivalent to get started with climate action? After all, it's an emergency, and we need to take action as quick as possible. So we're proposing that this would be a first step in joining OffSetGo as a company, and that the next step, which I show in the next slide, is really to start getting to use our tools. The main tool that we're proposing is focused on the home office, which is a combination in a way of the physical workplace. And I saw a question earlier about what percentage should I use. If you think of it maybe in a simpler way, if you take the whole home office, if you take the whole home, sorry, as a residential use, and we're trying to capture an element of that home, which is for commercial use within that home. So technically, we would take into consideration the portion of energy use of that home for the specific square footage that represent the home office, but we would only take into account energy end uses that apply to commercial activity. So heating, cooling, lighting, but probably not hot water, and probably not appliances, for instance. So that's how we would approach it as part of our methodology. We're trying to apply basically building science to this part of the calculation. And we try to also take into account the life cycle assessment portion and the embodied energy of the physical space as well. For the digital part, you've heard it already from Tom. If you think of someone who's spending 8 hours a day plugging maybe a laptop and a screen and an external microphone and a sound system, etc., you know, the power usage time, the time is what we would take into account and when we talk about devices, but also we're connected to a network which has also its own energy use per data traffic that we're actually moving around. For example, now doing this video conference, we're sending some data and receiving as you know, over the time period of this event. So taking into account network and data energy is also as important, and this is something we have included in as part of the methodology to tackle what we call the distributed emissions. Next slide, please. So the idea is that because we're considering the home office as the territory where we're trying to reduce carbon emissions, in a way, this is a territory where the interest of the employer and the employees meet. If we reduce energy use in the home, it's cost savings to the employer, to the employee, but also carbon savings to the companies that they work for. And we're trying to see what solution can we propose as part of OffSetGo that would help do that. So these would be solutions to reduce the carbon footprint of a company by deploying smart home solutions, energy efficiency solutions, transition also to renewable energy, like Tom was suggesting earlier with his company, to help companies reduce their impact. And with the next step, obviously after tracking and reducing emissions, what's left is what is in the next slide, is to how do we actually offset the remaining of our carbon footprint with high quality verifiable carbon credits. What we are proposing to offer on OffSetGo is carbon credit that mainly focus on projects that have high potential to really move the needle when it comes to climate change. And we're relying on the research of Project Drawdown, which is a research organization based in the US that has done some extensive work assessing about 100 solutions or so that could really have high impact on improving the situation with the climate if they were deployed at scale. And we're focusing only on the top 10, which mainly include, there includes a number of things, but forest management, clean energy, and community projects such as improved cook stoves is one of the things that they suggest as high potential. So we're trying to really focus our choices and curate only carbon credits that focus on that. We're hoping that a solution like OffSetGo really can mobilize as many distributed workplaces as possible. And as conclusion, basically, we think, given the number of us working remotely now during the pandemic, and I know many companies after this kind of experiment saw that we are, we're finding, working remotely potentially maybe more productive or more convenient or less costly, etc., that we can capture the potential of all these remote desks to hopefully offer, a significant and sizable climate solution. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rym. That was great. I love the idea of us thinking much more about this home office, and rather than just we're cocooned in a room working from home and then we go off and do something else. Actually, we are part of this distributed workforce that has a responsibility to the environment, and we need to think about what that means for us. I also like the idea of the pledge per desk, a little bit similar to that, to the carbon tax that I think Tom talked about earlier. And I think there's a real mileage in getting companies to actually perhaps sign up to something like that, and that's something that I'll definitely want to explore and look to take forward. And